Hello, everybody, and welcome to our live today, which is called the 10 Ways to Teach English Abroad Using Games. My name is Mike Maitland. I am the founder of Tefl Heaven, which is a teach abroad agency, and we help people to send people to, we help to send people to teach abroad in many different countries. So, thank you for tuning in. If you're on the live today, then hashtag live in the comments, please. And if you're on the replay, can you put a hashtag replay? I'll just log in on Facebook so I can see people's comments. But today is an exciting time. So I'm going to share with you some of my knowledge about how to teach English abroad. And let me just get myself on the screen here. Okay, so now I can see your comments. So tell me where you're from. Tell me what you are planning to do. Are you planning to teach abroad? Have you already taught abroad before? Are you here just to get extra knowledge? Let me know in the comments, please. Please put a hashtag live if you're live and a hashtag replay if you're on the replay, because what that does is it makes Facebook's algorithm push it out to more people, and so more people will be able to see this live. As I said, I'm Mike Maitland. If you're just joining us, this is 10 ways to teach English abroad using games. So let me just crack on right away. Okay, so here's my little presentation. So anyone can do this. Anyone can teach English abroad using games. Once you learn the framework, the plug-and-play framework and the principles to do this, teaching abroad becomes so much easier. And it's something that I wish that someone had taught me before my first lesson, because I didn't know how to teach English using games, and I ended up being a terrible teacher for my first employment. And so this is what I'm going to share with you today. If you've always wanted to go and teach abroad and you feel like, well, I don't know whether I'll be able to do it, this lesson today, this session, will help you understand that anyone can do it. Anyone can teach English as long as you know the principles and the framework of how to do it. And you just plug and play that framework, and you're off to the races. And the amount of transformation, the confidence that you get from being a teacher is immense. It really builds your character, builds your confidence, and that's what I'm hoping to do for you today. Can I have your full attention, please? If you are on your phone or if you're doing something else, try and just do one thing at a time. I don't believe multitasking exists. And we use a lot of our mental energy flitting from one task to another. So I just ask you to pay attention. And at the end of this presentation, I will be giving you a little gift, which is the salary versus living cost guides for 12 countries. So you'll be able to get the link for that. I'll give you it free. You can download it. You can check to see how much money you can save in each of the countries on the list. And what you're going to learn today is how to teach English the easy way. This is the easy way to do it. This is like less stress, okay? It's the fun way of doing it. It's also the number one skill, which is engagement. You're going to learn today how to engage your students and your class. And if you can learn how to engage people, then you're fine. Like, you're going to be fine. Everything's going to be good. If you don't know how to engage your students, that's when you're going to be nervous, anxious. Students are going to be bored. And also, this is how to enjoy teaching English. Okay, so this is a way that you can enjoy it. In fact, sometimes you get a little bit too much enjoyment out of it and you need to reel it back in. Why should you listen to me? Well, I am a trainer of trainers. So I ran a teach abroad program in Thailand for 9 years. I trained the trainers during that time. So we trained new candidates coming to Thailand, and I trained the ones that trained them. So I'm one step above. In that sense, I understand what people go through when they go abroad and when they're first arrived. And I understand what it is that you need to help you to become a confident teacher. I also have a PGCE, so there's a postgraduate certificate of education in the UK. So I'm a UK qualified teacher. And I've got a TEFL, but that's obvious. Okay, so we're going to get straight into it now. If you have any questions, you can ask in the chat so far. Lisa Jane Kerr, live from Australia. Awesome. So tell us where you're from as well. But here we go. So is any game that you've ever played in your whole life, like any game at all, whether it was a warm-up game or a group game at like university or something, or whether it was a game when you were in primary school or in secondary school, or even just a board game, any game can be made into an English language lesson if you just build in these three things. And the three things are drilling, eliciting, and production/practice. Okay. So drilling is pretty straightforward. You have the vocabulary for that day, and you say it, they say it. 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 That's drilling. All right. And if it's kind of like rote memorization as well. And many teachers just use that, but you've got to use that in cooperation with eliciting. So eliciting is very similar to drilling, but it's just you show the flashcard and then they tell you what it is. So instead of you telling them what it is, you elicit from them the language. And then you drill again. So, hey, what's this? It's a policeman. Policeman, 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 policeman. So you're trying to get them to produce or practice the language, okay? So these are the three main principles that you can turn any game at all into an English lesson. Now, the cool thing about games is that kindergarten kids want to play games, primary kids want to play games, secondary kids want to play games, and even adults enjoy playing games. So games can be used across the board for any level and for any age group. So you don't need to think, oh, this game's only for like kindergarten kids or this game's only for adults. Like you can match up or mix and match different games according to what you believe should go with that class. And you can try games, and games won't work with some countries and some other countries and some age levels and some other age levels. So you just need to try it and test it, okay? So that's the little introduction there. Let me just check here. Oh, the other last thing is that there's three things you need to be aware of in the classroom. So this is the action-centered leadership model by John Adair. You have to be aware of the task, the team, and the individual. So if you're drilling and the whole class, like the team, is repeating, you also have to remember that there are individuals in that class, and you can drill with an individual as well. So you go straight up to a student and say, hey, what's this? They elicit it, then you say it, they say it, you say it, they say it, just you and him together, maybe just for 5 seconds, then go back to the whole class. And then you can make sure that people are actually individually learning. The task is the game. So you have to balance between making sure that the task gets done, the secondary task, which is actually them learning English, the individuals get looked after, and the whole class is also having a lot of fun. Okay, so this is how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to do the name of the game. So we're getting right into it now. I'm going to tell you the name of the game. I'm going to explain how it works and how to incorporate the English teaching part. So let me just go back to this. Thank you very much. All right, so the first game that we're going to talk about is just an easy game that is played, like it's probably the most used game. I wouldn't even call it a game actually, and it's just catch. So you get a ball of any size and you get the students in a circle and you have the vocabulary for that day. Now, I've seen this done with hello, how are you? What is your name? How are you? I am 10 years old. Like that's normally the language that this is used for, but you can use it for any language whatsoever. So you just throw the ball to someone in the circle. You ask, when they catch it, you ask them the question, what's your name? They answer, my name is Michael, and then they throw the ball back to you. The good thing about this is that you can get them to throw the ball to each other, so then they ask each other the questions and reply. So that's the most simple game that you can use in the classroom. Funnily enough, it's interesting, like the kids like it, you know, because you're going to have to catch the ball. And, you know, catch is one of the simplest and easiest games you can play. Okay, so that is catch, or the ball game. There's another game that is used for kindergarten kids, and that's called the Four Corners game. And normally, when you're teaching kindergarten kids, you normally just have one word or one flashcard rather than a sentence. And so let's say you have 4 flashcards. This is called the Four Corners game. So you drill the flashcard. So let's just say it's the color red. So red, 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 red. After drilling it, you stick that flashcard in the corner of the room. And then you get another flashcard. Blue, 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 blue. Then you put that in another corner of the room. Then you do it with yellow. Then you do it with brown. And so you've got a color in each corner of the room. And you gather all the students in the middle of the class. And then you say, run to brown. And then they have to run to the corner of the room where brown is. Now, I've seen this work, and if they don't know the language, they'll run all over the place. And so you really have to help them recognize what the colors are and what the flashcard is. And then when they finally get it, you play a game where the last person is out. So you say, okay, now run to red. They'll run to red. And the last one, you just grab them and you say, you're out. And they sit out. And you keep doing that until one person wins. And you hold up their arm and they get an almighty cheer. And they're all having loads of fun. So funnily enough, this works really, really well. Like just simple games work really, really well. And then during the game, again, you would point to individual children and say, hey, what's this? And then check their pronunciation and then help them with their pronunciation, help them with their production. So as long as they're speaking, as long as they're eliciting, as long as they're producing the language, practicing the language, recognizing the language, recalling the language, you can lead any game. Do you see what I'm saying? You can make anything into a game, anything competitive. So that's the Four Corners game. The next one I will share with you is the Slap the Flashcard game. So this is also a very common game that is used. Again, flashcards, probably good for primary school. You would drill the flashcards. Let's say there's 6 flashcards. And then you'd stick them on the whiteboard. You'd get the teams into 2 lines. So you make 2 teams. And then the first 2 people in the queue, you would like shout, run! You'd shout like, let's say the flashcard is policeman. And you say, maybe there's a sentence structure as well. You could be like, what do you want to be when you grow? What do you want to be when you grow up? They could shout that to you. What do you want to be when you grow up? And you could say, I want to be a policeman. And as soon as you say the word policeman, both teams run forward, or one person from each team runs forward, and they slap the right flashcard. And you would think that like they slap the right flashcard, but they always seem to slap the wrong one until you play it a couple of times and they start to recognize what policeman is. And so then whoever slaps the right flashcard, they get a point on the board. So point systems are always good to use. Team names on each side of the board, and then you put a tally mark on when they get a point. So that is Slap the Flashcard game. Similar game to that is called British Bulldog. Americans might call it something else, but I call it British Bulldog. And that is where all of the class are on one side of the room with their backs against the wall. And you have a vocabulary to share with them. So let's say, what do you want to be when you grow up? So what do you want to be when you grow up? And then you can hold up the flashcard. I want to be a lawyer. 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 Driller, drill, 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 drill. And then you shout, run! And then they got to run all the way across to the other side of the wall, and then the last person is out. So it's very similar to the Four Corners game, but you're not really getting them to recognize stuff. You're just drilling with them for that whole time, and then getting them to run across to the other side. Whoever is the last one then becomes the winner, and you put their hand up. Another variation of that game is that you become a monster. So when they run across, you've got to try and catch them, and you like shout and roar, and you grab them. And that goes down really well, but gets a bit chaotic because kids start bashing into each other when they're running away from the teacher, and you can get some injuries during that. But when you grab them and they're now out, they become a monster as well. So it ends up you have you and loads of kids being this barrier of monsters to like one kid trying to get to the other side. And it gets really, really interesting at that point. So as long as you're building in drilling and eliciting, and they're having fun and it's being engaging, then you will be able to have a good lesson. Okay, so another one, let me see here. Another one is Simon Says. So Simon Says, if you're doing body parts or something, Simon Says, touch your eyes. Simon Says, touch your nose. And so with that game, you can see how easy it can be done. I probably don't even need to explain it to you. But what you need to make sure is that they are using the language, that they're producing the language. So when you say, Simon Says, touch your eyes, they'll have to say something like, touch your eyes. Simon Says, touch your ears. And then they say something like, touch your ears. And then you'd be like, Simon Says, touch your eyes. And then whoever touches their nose, because they're following what you're doing rather than listening to you, then goes out. Okay? So that's another game to play. Again, You can have a point system. You can either change it so that it's 2 teams. So whoever is the slowest team to do it loses a point, or whoever's the fastest team to do it gets a point. Or you can just do it where someone goes out if they're the slowest or if they get it wrong. Okay, so that's Simon Says. Another one, I mean, all these games are pretty straightforward, pretty easy. I probably don't even need to explain some of them to you. Pictionary. So Pictionary is where you draw on the whiteboard, and so you get two teams again. Teams are always good. And you give them both a whiteboard pen, and you whisper into their ears what the vocabulary is. So if it's like a car or if it's a boat, you whisper to each member of the team who's about to draw. And then you shout, go! And then they draw it, and whichever team shouts it the fastest gets the point. This is just so much fun, guys. If you try this in a classroom, you'll see how much fun this is. Because you see some way dodgy drawings, and the kids really get competitive about it as well. So that's that one. And you can do the similar thing with charades, or charades. I think charades is UK, isn't it? Or it's charades. And so you just mime out the word, and you have them split into 2 teams, and then you get points for the fastest team to get it right. Okay, so then there's also board games. So board games, I don't mean like board games as in like the ones on tabletop. I mean like whiteboard games. So this is an example of battleships. So this is how to play battleships. I actually have a video on YouTube where I'm playing battleships in Thailand. So you can go ahead and look at that if you want. Just type in battleships, Tefl Heaven. But what you do with this is, so battleships is obviously that tabletop game where you put the pins in, you play against each other. With this type of battleships, you're against them, and they're split into 2 teams. So again, they take a turn each, and you have a piece of paper where you've plotted where all your ships are. Your paper looks exactly like this, but you have a little ship here, a little ship there, a little ship there. So it's just one cell per ship, one box, or whatever you want to call it. And so then you basically say to them, okay, team 1, choose a square or fire your missile. And so they'll say, it's a car 1, it's a car 1, it's a car 1, boo, splash. You missed. Everyone, it's a car. 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 So you're drilling again. And then the next team, they would say, it's a plane 2. It's a plane 2. Boo! You hit. And they'll be like, yay! And then you give them a point, and then you show that this square's been hit. And yeah, it's a really fun game to play. I like it anyway. So another one is Connect 4. Or some people call it 4 in a row. Again, I think that's what the Americans call it. In the UK, we call it Connect 4. And that's where you're trying to get 4 in a row, basically. So Connect 4, you draw it on the board. It's going to be a really, really dodgy drawing, by the way. Again, you have vocabulary down the bottom. Now I'm just going to put letters just because I can't think of vocabulary so quickly. And then you just act like the whiteboard is the real Connect 4. Okay, so I'm just going to draw not all of them, see how it works, and then you say, okay, team 1, choose, and they'll say whatever this vocabulary is. So policeman, and so you just drop it down. You pretend to drop it down. In Connect 4, you always colour in the bottom one, right? And then the next one, I'd have a red pen for the other team, and then they might go there. And then the object of the game, surely you play Connect 4. The object of the game is to get 4 in a row for each team. And so that works well. As long as you're building in vocabulary drilling, vocabulary eliciting, then that is what matters the most. So then producing the language. And as you can see, you can sort of build any game into this. And as soon as you're leading the games, and you're remembering to just do the drilling and the eliciting, life becomes so much easier. It really does, because you get good behavior because they're enjoying themselves. You feel like you're making a difference because they're repeating the language, they're producing the language, they're recalling the language, they're eliciting the language. You feel like you're actually making a difference. and you're having a lot of fun at the same time. So once I learned this, it made me such a better teacher, and it made it actually. I loved teaching after that. Before that, I thought I was a terrible teacher. I didn't like teaching because I didn't feel I was good at it. And this is the same for you. Like, anyone can do it. You see, anyone can do it. Now, there's one last thing I want to share with you. It's kind of like a bonus one. I think I've done more than 10 games today, but it's like a bonus one which I found to be really good with my primary school kids, and that is having a really complicated point system. So if anyone gets a point on the team, what I used to do is I used to have like 3 stick men for each team at the bottom of the whiteboard, and then 3 stick men for the other team as well. And you just have a story. So when they lose a point, the other team kills one of the people on the other. It's probably not PC. It's probably not politically correct. But what this team basically kills one of these guys if they lose a point. So ended up like doing a story like, okay, you've lost a point. This guy fires a rocket launcher. So then I'd like draw a really terrible rocket launcher, and I'd like kill that guy, and they'd be like, oh, like they'd really get into it, or I'd like draw a tank and then fire a missile and it'd blow someone up, or even just something simple like a bow and arrow. If you don't want to do anything violent like that, I drew a pterodactyl. Yeah, a pterodactyl. I'm really good at drawing pterodactyls. I drew a pterodactyl and it pooped on one of their guys. Or you can do a bomb if you do like violence, and blow them up. Or you can draw a sinkhole and the guy falls down the sinkhole. But the whole point of it is that it's a story and it engages them. Like they love that. And then when it gets to like another turn, when someone's like lost a point, what you get from the audience, from the teams are, do this, do that, throw a ball, or like it's normally something a lot more like throw a grenade or something like that. Like they'll tell you what to do. So that makes it engaging. It's probably not the best. Thinking about it now, it's probably not politically correct, but it still is fun. So yeah, you should use it. Okay, so that's part of the session. Now, the next part of the session is just telling you a little bit about my story and also to give you these salary guides. So where am I? So actually, you don't know this, but I came to Thailand probably it was 2005. So in 2005, I was on MSN Messenger, and the girl that I really fancied was on there. And I was talking to her, and she said she's going to Thailand for the summer. And I was at university, and I was like, I'm not going to see her for the whole summer. And so I basically said, can I come on your trip? I've always wanted to teach English abroad as well. And she didn't really like me the same way as I liked her. And so her answer was like, well, I don't know. And I said, don't worry, I'll get myself my own job, and you won't have to worry about me. Just get me through the airport, because I had never traveled internationally before. And she was going with another guy, but they weren't together. But awkwardly, she said yes. And so anyway, we went together. And I think I have a picture of us at the airport. Us 3, there's me looking really specky and not dressed very well. Anyway, us 3 are on that side. And then that's her family there. And yeah, so we went through the airport together. When I arrived in Bangkok, they went to the north of Bangkok and I went to the south of Bangkok. I didn't realize that my job was an hour away from their jobs, and so I hardly even saw them. But I started my teaching adventure, and on the first day of my employment, I had a 1 hour observation. Let me just get to you. On the first day of employment, I had a 1 hour training. So I observed the Thai director teach, and I was like, oh yeah, I think I can do this. This looks all right. And then she turned around and said, now you teach for the next 4 hours. And I was like, what? It's like I've had no training. I've only watched 1 hour of a class. And so I just did everything that she did, copied exactly how she taught the class. And I managed to get through the day. I got through the week, but I did not get through the month. I actually got fired after 3 weeks, would you believe? And it's because of a kindergarten class where there was a camera in the classroom, and I was trying to teach them, but I didn't know how to teach them. as a terrible teacher, and they were bored, I was anxious, and I ended up getting fired. And I don't know if you've ever been fired before, but it really crushes your spirit. That was one of the hardest weeks of my life. I felt so low. My self-esteem was brought right down. And I was just like, oh man, I'm rubbish. And I thought it was all my fault, you know? And then the next day, I was waiting for a bus to take me to a shopping mall because I was like, I might as well just be a tourist for the rest of my time in Thailand. And what do tourists do? They walk around shopping malls. So I waited for this bus and it never came. I waited for an hour, it never came. I was like, what is going on right now with my life? And I turned around, there was a language centre right behind me. And I was like, okay. So I walked in, I showed them my working visa. I said, do you have any jobs? And they said, yes, we do. And then within half an hour, I got another job teaching English to adults, which was much easier for me because the need for the games wasn't there. And I didn't know how to do teaching through games at that point. And so then at the end of this trip, this girl and this guy, they invited me to an island adventure because they weren't getting on very well. But they didn't want to go as a couple, so they invited me. So we went as a three. And then on that island adventure for 10 days, just before we went back to the UK, she let her hair down a little bit. She got to know me a bit better. And then a year later, we were back. A year later, we were married, and we were back in Thailand teaching English again. But this time I got trained properly into how to teach using games, and I became a successful teacher, really loved it. And when we left Thailand the second time, we started recruiting people to Thailand, then to South Korea, Costa Rica, and now we've sent thousands of people to teach English abroad in over 14 different countries. And Tefl Heaven is the business. As you can see, there's a little Tefl Heaven font there in the middle. We got the candidates to organise themselves into the Tefl Heaven name. But thousands of people have been sent to teach English abroad, and it's my family business, and now we have 5 kids as well. So that girl, I got to marry her. I got my dream. And these are my kids. They're a little bit older now, so these are the right ages down there, but this is an old picture. So they're not as cute, but they're still cute. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about our philosophy. So our philosophy is this. This is the Tefl Heaven trifecta. We believe that if you're going to go and teach abroad, you need to have 3 main things to be a successful, confident, and connected teacher abroad. You can do it without these things, but you're not going to be as confident and you're not going to be as connected. And that's what the main thing is. So number 1 is you need friends and a community. So one of the things that I didn't have when I went abroad for the first time was friends. The agency that I was a part of, the very first guy that I spoke to said to me, oh, you're going to love it here, mate. You're going to love it. I've never paid for sex. I've never paid for sex. And I was like, what? It's like, why are you bringing this up? He's like, yeah, but the last week, I had a girl come in every hour into my apartment and I was pushing them out so the other girl would come in. And so he was boasting about how many girls he could have. And I was like, I'm not hanging about with this guy. And then the other teacher of that agency, I went in and observed his lesson for the first time. And as he was teaching, he turned to me and he's like, oh, you're going to love it here, mate. Do you see that Thai assistant? I was like, yeah, she's my girlfriend. I was like, all right, okay. And he's like, I've got another girlfriend too. I've got 2 girlfriends. I was like, what? And so there was another experience as well with another CD guy. So I didn't have any friends and I felt so lonely. And friends is what really boosts you up, you know? And so all of our programs have a period of time where you get to know other people doing the same thing. Good people, not people that are in Thailand for the wrong reasons, or in another country. Every country we have this. So you have a training period or an induction period, and that's where you can get to know like-minded people who have been vetted by us, and so people that you will basically like. The other part that will help you be successful is cultural and teacher training. So it's important to have an understanding of the culture, and also to get world-class teacher training. That's what we offer on our programs as well, so that when you get in the classroom, you know exactly how to teach, what to do in every situation, and you understand the culture so you don't have cultural pitfalls where you end up getting in trouble. And then lastly, we have financial and moral support. You need to get paid, obviously, as you teach abroad, but there's other ways to get paid as well. We actually pay you to promote teaching abroad to other people in your friend group, and we give you a lot of money for doing that. And we also basically support you morally. We want you to have a good experience, a transformational experience. And that is, the moral support is probably what's made us the best that over the past 13 years because we really care about people. We want them to have a good time. And if anyone doesn't have a good time, I'm there like a shot to make sure that they do get some help. So if you're interested in learning a bit more about this, you can get our salary versus living costs guide. The link is there. It's bit.ly/salaryg1. You can go and get that link. You can go and get that guide from there. And it's 12 different countries. It shows you how much money you can make, how much money you can save, and the living costs as well. And so if you have any questions, let me know right now.